Hi, I'm Ian Lees, and you're listening to Scottish Shindig with Andy Phillip on Radio GH.
The Scottish Shindig, the best in Scottish dance music and song.
Well, hello everyone and a very warm welcome to the Scottish Shindig. It's Andy standing in for Ewan this week, and sit back, relax and enjoy the next hour of great Scottish music and song. And a very warm welcome to everyone tuned in, no matter where you are, especially those everywhere around the globe. It's great to see so many of you tuned in, and we'll get started straight away. Take your partners for the Gay Gordons from Graham Mitchell and his album In Full Swing. What a great set to get us started off with. That was Graham Mitchell and his Scottish dance band from the album In Full Swing, and of course a Gay Gordon as well. A very warm welcome to everyone tuned in. And Alan Gifford, you make me very jealous. You've managed a wee G&T in the back garden. Next week you'll learn how to take the mobile tablet outside and enjoy the weather. Anyway, we'll get started off in good style, continuing on with Stephen Carker and Graham Bell from their album Bridge of Earn Lockdown Sessions. And here they are. Take your partners for a military two-step. Great set from Stephen Carker and Graham Bell from their album The Lockdown Sessions, Bridget and Lockdown Sessions, and that was of course a great military two-step. Well, I hope you're all doing well, and we'll ease the pace back slightly just to give you a chance to catch your breath. And a lovely set from Tom Orr, this time from his album Tomorrow's World, and here they are with a Gallic waltz. So if you're in the mood, grab your partner and have a wee waltz. Absolutely gorgeous arrangements and playing from Tom Orr and the band from the album Tomorrow's World. That was a beautiful set of Gallic waltzes. Well, time for a wee sing-song, and if Donald's tuned in, I'm quite sure you'll join in with this one, as will everyone else, I'm quite sure. Comes from an Ayrshire man, Linton McMillan. If you're from these parts, you'll have knowledge of Linton. Great voice from his album Heart of Scotland. Here he is with that well-known song, The Wee Kirkcudbright Centipede.
Centipede, but she was very sweet. Oh, Well, she was ever so proud of every one of her 100 feet. Early every morning all the neighbours came to glance. She always entertained them with a beautiful little dance. Well, her neighbour Jenny Longlegs with jealousy was mad, so she went out and bought herself a pencil and a pad. She came along for mornings and she made a careful note of every step the centipede made, and this is what she wrote. She wrote that legs number 94 gave 95 a shunt. Legs number 1 and 2 were twisting out in front. Legs number 9 and 10 were wriggling up the side, when 73 and 74 were doing a polyglide. And with exact notation, young Jenny Longlegs tried to dance just like the centipede. She failed and nearly cried. She grabbed the hold of the centipede and cried, now have a look and show me how you do these steps I've written in my book. Cried the centipede, do I do that? She tried to demonstrate. She'd never thought of the thing before and get into a terrible state. Her 100 legs were twisted, get tied up in a fankle. She fractured 7 shin bones, 14 kneecaps and an ankle. As legs number 1 and 2 were tied with 3 and 4. Legs number 5 and 6 were trampled on the floor. Legs number 15 was attacked by number 10. And 97 and 98 will never dance again. Ah, the weaker Kubri centipede, she suffered terrible pain. And some of us were very surprised that she ever danced again. But now she tells her neighbours, everyone who calls to see, I'll try an explanation of what comes so naturally as legs number 94 gave 95 a shunt. Legs number 1 and 2 were twisting out in front. Legs number 9 and 10 were wriggling up the side, when 73 and 74 were doing a polyglide. As legs number 94 gave 95 a shunt. Legs number 1 and 2 were twisting out in front. Legs number 9 and 10 were wriggling up the side, when 73 and 74 were doing a polyglide.
Great song from Linda McMillan, the weaker Kubri centipede. I hope you're all singing along there and enjoying that one. Well, the next track is a request, and Margaret McCulloch got in touch with the show to ask, could you play Cadam Wood by Ewan Galloway, please, for Alison Sim for her birthday on Sunday the 11th, that's today. Have a lovely day, Alison. Best wishes from Oriel, Elaine and Margaret. And, of course, from everyone tuned in here at Radio GH. So especially for you, Alison, on your birthday, many happy returns. Here's Ewan to give you a medley starting with Cadam Woods. Well, a great selection from Ewan there. Ewan Galloway and his band for the tune and a medley starting with Cadam Woods, especially for Alison Sim on her birthday today. So, once again, many happy returns, Alison. Hope you've had a lovely day. The next track, we step back in time a wee bit to John Ellis and his Highland Country Band. And here they are with their unique sound to play a Pride of Erin waltz. Lovely medley from John Ellis and his Highland Country Band from an old album, Thistle and the Shamrock, and a selection for a Pride of Erin waltz. Gorgeous it was too. Well, we'll come back down to Ayrshire for a co-conspirator of Linton Macmillan who played earlier on, and it's none other than Ian Muir and his Scottish Dance Band, and here's Ian to give a medley for Shifting Bobbins Dance, starting with the title tune. medley, and playing there from Ian Muir and his Scottish dance band for the dance Shifting Bobbins. And for Alison Sim, it really is your birthday. You had Cadam Woods from two great box players this evening, Ian Muir and Ewan Galloway, so it's a great birthday for you. The next one, we'll slow it down a wee bit. I'm going to play this one for Shirley Haining. I think Shirley's tuned in from Dumfries, and it features Inver, Blythe and Cleland Shand, her grandchildren, and it's a tune I've played before on the Shindig, and it's a bonny, bonny tune composed by David Hunter, who many of you know from the programme he used to do with Peter Woods, and it's a bonny tune called Miss Emily. Beautiful tune, Miss Emily, composed by David Hunter, beautifully played and arranged by Inver, Blythe and Cleland Shand there. Bonny, bonny tune. You could never hear that too many times, it's gorgeous. Well, the next track comes from Alan Crookston and his Gailey Band from the album Note Before Time, and it's a set for the Posties jig, so let's see it dancing about the floor. great set from Alan Crookston and his Kelly Band from the album Notes Before Time. That was a set for the Posties jig, and if your feet weren't tapping, your hands moving, check the volumes up. Well, fantastic stuff from Alan and the guys. Well, time halfway through the programme for a wee holiday, and it comes this week from Willie Scott from his album Personal Favourites, and it's a cracking tune this. It's called A Fond La Casse. Well, how about that? Willie Scott from his album Personal Favourites. That was A Fond La Casse. Tremendous playing there from Willie. Well, time for a wee announcement. If you just bear with me, I'm going to find this video clip and we will have news for you of a new show coming from Ian Lees. So I'll play this just now.
This is Radio GH, where the music lives. We're thrilled to welcome you to a brand new show, The Music Lounge with Ian Lees. Ian will be your guide through a hand-picked journey of alternative gems, big band brilliance, musical theatre magic, smooth, easy listening, silky jazz, and much more. Settle in, unwind, and let Ian Lees bring the perfect soundtrack to your day or night. Catch The Music Lounge for the latest show each week on Monday at 10 p.m. and repeated Wednesday at 11 a.m., Saturday at 9 p.m. and Sunday at 2 p.m. only on Radio GH.
Sorry, I managed not to cut that off in time, but it was going to play a second time. Ian Lees is bringing a new show to us a week tomorrow at 10 p.m. at the Music Lounge, and if you're familiar with Ian's work, you know you're in for a great show. And if you're familiar with his work, you'll know he's a great singer as well, and here he is to give us a wee song all about marching through the heather.
Step it out with the cheer and the shout when we're marching through the heather. Sing a song, keep it strong, though the way may be long, we will all get there together. Here we come to the beat of the drum, weather. So we smile all the while, every long weary mile, marching through the heather. We've got to get on the road to anywhere. But will it be and what do we see? Who'll care? We're ready to drop, but we'll never stop. We'll even raise a cheer. And if we survive, we're sure to ride next year. It's windy and wet, and what do we get? Sore feet. But even although we know we've been through this before, we shoulder the load and get to the road once more. Step it out with the cheer and the shout when we're marching through the heather. Sing a song, keep it strong, though the way may be long. We will all get there together. Here we come to the beat of the drum, and we never mind the weather. So we smile all the while, every long weary mile, marching through the heather.
The fantastic voice of Ian Lees, and you can join Ian a week tomorrow with his new show, The Music Lounge, 10 p.m. on Radio GH. Well, another announcement. As many of you know, and I see some comments, many of you have been involved in remembrance services for the 80th anniversary of VE Day. Also in the background, Ewan Galloway has been working his socks off. It's a subject close to Ewan's heart, and he has produced a CD, Melodies of Valor. I'll put a wee link up. And one of the tracks on here I'm going to play for you. It's the Dam Busters, that made famous by the movie. Obviously written around the Operation Chastise, but this is just one of 14 tracks on Ewan's album, and he's made a cracking job of it with lots of work involved. So sit back and enjoy his efforts here with the theme to the Dam Busters. Fantastic track from Ewan Galloway and the theme to the Dam Busters. And you can get that on Melodies of Valor, 14 brilliant tracks. Very emotional, a lot of work he's put into that, and what a sound he's got from it too. Well, we'll move on to a wee jump up to Shetland for the late Jim Halcrow and his band with a Boston two-step. Great lively sound from Jim Halcrow and his band from an album An Evening with Friends, and that was of course a Boston two-step. Well, we'll slow the pace down a wee bit and we'll head to the Alexander Brothers from their album The Very Best of Volume 2, and here's a medley for an old time waltz, the first one taking you away to Granny's Ealing Hame. A bonny set of waltzes with many favourites, well-known favourites in there from Tom Alexander and the Alexander Brothers from their album The Very Best of Volume 2. Well, we had the youngsters earlier on, we may as well make it a family affair. We had Inver, Blythe and Cleland earlier. Here's Dad Gordon Shand and his Scottish Dance Band from the album Cayley Round the Steeple with an Eva three-step. A great swinging set from Gordon Shand and his Scottish Dance Band from the album Cayley Round the Steeple. That was, of course, for a Eva three-step. Fantastic sound it was too. Well, we go now to another great sound from Lindsay Weir and a Scottish Dance Band from her album Step in Style. Here's Lindsay and the band with a Highland Scottish. great set from Lindsay Weir and the Scottish Dance Band from an album Step in Style. Well, sadly, that brings us to the last track of the evening. Thanks very much for your company for the last hour, and I hope you have a great week no matter what you're doing. Enjoy yourselves, take care of yourselves, and have a great time until the next time. I'm going to leave you in the very capable hands of Bobby Brown and the Scottish Accent from an album Celtic Fire in the Music, CD number 1, and it's a selection of reels. So take care of yourselves and enjoy the last track. All the best till next time. Cheerio. Thanks very much for all your kind words, folks. All the best till next time.